Every day at 6 p.m., an old stray dog runs to the door. He waits for the sound of keys. His tail wags hopefully, but his owner isn't coming back. The dog's name is Champ. He's a stray, but not for long. Every day at exactly 6 o'clock, this dog runs to the front door. He listens intently for the familiar sound of keys. His whole body shakes with excitement, but no one ever comes. At least that was the case until today. The story of how Champ became a stray is a sad one. He used to have a loving owner named Sarah. They were inseparable. But one day Sarah fell ill and had to go to the hospital. She left Champ in the care of her friend Emily, who was supposed to just feed him and give him water while she was gone. But tragically, Emily wasn't able to take care of him properly. And when Sarah returned from the hospital, she found Champ barely clinging to life. A vet later told her that the dog had been severely dehydrated, and if she hadn't brought him in when she did, he would have died. Sarah was furious at Emily and kicked her out of her home, but she couldn't find it in her heart to be mad at Champ. In fact, she loved him even more now. If that was possible, Sarah took Champ everywhere with her. They went to the park, the beach, the mall, the vet, all places where they could spend time together. Sarah worked from home, so Champ would often join her on her Zoom calls. He would sit patiently by her side as she worked, occasionally licking her hand to show his affection. But sadly, their idyllic life together didn't last long. One day, Sarah started to feel ill again and was rushed to the hospital. This time it was much more serious. Doctors put her in a medically induced coma while they performed tests and tried to determine the best course of treatment. Champ whimpered and paced by her bedside, refusing to leave her side. But Sarah was in a different world and couldn't hear or see him. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no improvement in Sarah's condition. Her family gathered by her bedside, crying and praying that she would pull through. But deep down they knew that she wouldn't make it. When Sarah's brother James arrived at the hospital, he brought Champ with him. He had shaved the dog down to his undercoat so that he wouldn't overheat in the summer heat. But Champ didn't care about his new haircut. All he wanted to do was be close to Sarah. One of the nurses offered to take Champ outside for a walk, but he refused to leave Sarah's room. He whined and cried, then laid down by her bed and closed his eyes. It was the last place he'd seen her, and it was the only place he wanted to be. A few hours later, Sarah's family gathered around her bed and said their final goodbyes. Then the machines that were keeping her alive were turned off. A few minutes later, Sarah was pronounced dead. Her family was devastated, but they knew that she was in a better place now. They took turns consoling each other, and no one noticed when Champ got up and quietly slipped out of the room. He wandered the hospital halls until he came across a door marked staff only. Somehow he knew that if he went through that door, he would never see Sarah again. But he didn't want to be without her, so he pushed the door open and slipped inside. It was a supply closet, and all he could think about was how he would never see his beloved owner again. He whimpered softly, then curled up in a ball and closed his eyes. In the morning, a hospital worker came into the supply closet to get some towels. When she saw Champ, she was shocked. She called for security, but before they could get there, Champ had already slipped out the door and disappeared. Now, every day at 6 p.m., he runs to the door and waits for the sound of keys. He hasn't eaten or drunk anything all day, and he spends his nights sleeping in doorways or under bushes. People try to pet him, but he growls and snaps at them, terrified that they will take him away from Sarah. And every day at 6 p.m., he runs to the door. The sound of keys is what gives him hope to keep going. He believes that if he can just wait for the right key, Sarah will come back and take him home. And maybe one day she will. But until then, he will wait. Do you think Champ will ever stop waiting for Sarah? Let me know your thoughts. And don't forget to share this with your friends. Thanks for watching. See you next time.